Autism spectrum disorder, commonly known as ASD, is a developmental disorder that impairs a child's ability to communicate and interact. Some common symptoms of autism spectrum disorder include inappropriate social interactions, which includes poor eye contact and perseverating on a certain topic. Other symptoms include interest in a few things. So a child with autism might be fascinated by trains. It would know every make and model of train ever made and would be able to tell you what kind of train was driving past you. Other common symptoms include learning disability and speech delay. So children with autism will typically have another type of learning disability and will often have speech delay and will be much later in their peers in developing their language. The last symptom includes unawareness of others' emotions. So a child with autism might not be able to pick up on nonverbal social cues. So if they see their mom frowning with her hands on her hips, they're not going to understand that she's angry unless she explicitly says so. So the current treatment we have for autism is known as PRT, or pivotal response training. And this treatment essentially focuses on using the child's motivation to get a certain toy or listen to a certain song in order to increase their responsivity to cues. So essentially, you're trying to get the child to respond to the parent's cues much better, and this includes cues on self-management, so curbing any behavioral issues that the child has, and trying to encourage the child to have more social initiations, so talking to their peers and adults with greater efficiency. Autism has traditionally been diagnosed when a child was around 3 years of age. And so PRT has been a great treatment because it mainly focuses on developing a child's language, which they're already behind their peers in ability by the time that they reach 3 years old. However, recent research has shown that children can be effectively diagnosed with autism when they're 18 to 24 months old. And now this poses a problem with treatment, because at this age, even a typically developing child is not going to have great language proficiency. And so a child with autism, PRT isn't going to be as effective as it mainly focuses on developing the child's language. However, research has also shown that there is a correlation between pre-verbal gesture production and language development later in a child's life. And we've seen studies in both typically developing children and children with ASD that show as pre-verbal gesture production increases, their language development will be more proficient later on in their life. So that gave us 2 research questions. First, how does PRT affect the rates of child gesturing? So essentially, we wanted to see, does the current treatment effectively help child gesturing, to see if it is an effective route in being an early intervention for children with ASD. Our other research question was, how does parental gesturing affect the rates of child gesturing? So essentially, we wanted to find a route for a potentially adapted early intervention to see if the parent could increase the child gesturing. So we decided to analyze 2 types of gesturing. First, dectic gesturing, which develops very early in a child's life, and that's going to be pointing, reaching, or grabbing for a certain object. And this develops much before language does. We also looked at representational gesturing, which are gestures that typically develop in conjunction with a child's language. And this is gesturing that's a cultural norm, like nodding your head yes or no, or waving hello or goodbye. This can also be types of representations, as in the name, and so essentially that would be swinging a baseball bat when you don't really have a baseball bat in your hand in order to represent a certain action. So what we did is we coded archived videos from the multi-day program at the Koegel Autism Center. And this program is essentially a 3 to 5 day intensive intervention that's provided by the Autism Center and focuses on developing the parent and the child strategies to improve PRT at home. And so we looked at 3 types of videos both before and after the intervention. Now these 3 types of videos were first, the child playing alone with toys, second, the parent and child playing without toys, and third, the parent and child playing with toys. Now our first finding was that PRT is largely ineffective in increasing child gesturing, which makes a lot of sense to us because PRT was adapted for children who are around 3 years of age because that's when autism was typically diagnosed. However, we did find PRT to be effective on increasing gesturing in one setting. the setting where the parent and child were playing together with toys. And this makes a lot of sense to us as well, because PRT uses a play-based intervention. So essentially, the parent and child are playing together with toys in order to improve the child's language and improve the child's behavior. Additionally, PRT uses the parents as interventionists. So in a setting where the parent and child are playing together, it makes sense that a lot of their traits are going to be enhanced. Additionally, PRT uses the child as the leader. So it makes a lot of sense that in a setting where they can be the leader and grab the toys and direct the parent at what they want to play with, that they would be having increased gesturing. And finally, PRT uses rewards for language. And the type of gesturing that we found to be significantly increased over the week of PRT was representational gesturing. And we know that representational gesturing and language develop almost simultaneously in a child's life. So an intervention that targets language would simultaneously target representational gesturing. Our second finding was that increased parental gesturing was correlated to increased child gesturing. And this was significant in the setting where the parent and child were playing alone without toys, and was approaching significance in the setting where the parent and child were playing with toys. Here's a graph of how parental representational gestures and child representational gestures are correlated in a setting where the parent and child are playing together without toys. And this correlation makes a lot of sense to us, because in a setting where the parent and child are playing together without toys, really all there is to do in an interaction is to gesture towards each other in order to initiate a play activity. So we found that increasing parental gesturing causes increased child gesturing, which will lead to later language proficiency in the child's life, which is ultimately what we want out of an early intervention. So this lays groundwork for a new intervention. Currently at the Koegel Autism Center, a project called REACH is being worked on, and this could be an aspect of this program. We can incorporate increasing the parent's gesturing in order to increase the child's gesturing. I'd like to say a big thank you to my mentor, Daina Tagavi, to Anthony, who wasn't officially my mentor, but definitely helped a lot in the learning process, to Dr. Lena Kim for allowing this program to happen in the first place, my lab mates Zoe, Selena, Trammy, and Jasmine, who learned with me every step of the way, Michael Hughes in my discussion section for helping prepare everything for this presentation, and my paper and poster, and my family for always being a source of support.